Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for part 2 of Jen's story. Today, we'll chat about her son's experience in school. You're going to love hearing about the joy she felt when her son began to speak and the day his teacher called to tell her that he could read. Here we go.
So tell me about his experience in school.
School has been great. Well, so preschool, it was, I think 12 was the max that they could have in the class. And it was
Of autistic kids?
Yeah. And it was a 2
I thought the limit was 6.
So now that he's first grade, so kindergarten, first grade, and I think from here on up, it's 6. But for preschool, for some reason, you would think that it should be definitely
Crazy.
around. But preschool, it was, I think 12 was the max, but it's a 2-to-1 ratio, so it's 2 kids to 1 teacher or aide.
Yeah.
So there's 5 aides in the classroom, you know.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people involved in the classroom. It's very busy there.
Right.
But
And was he potty trained or no?
He wasn't at 3 when he started school, and they said from day 1 when he enters the classroom, each kid starts potty training, and so I give them 100% of the credit for him being potty trained for that.
Isn't that nice to have teachers do that for you?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know, at first they tell you don't worry about it at home. It's just going to be practice at school. Once he kind of gets himself on a little bit of a schedule, which he did, then she's like, I'll ask you to kind of carry it over at home as best as you can. And we did. And so it took him a few months, but then he was good with peeing, you know. Pooping is a whole nother issue. So, and we're still struggling with that today. But we have
Because of digestive issues or because he just doesn't want to go?
well, he has a very poor diet, so he only eats carbs and dairy and
Yeah, exactly the stuff he shouldn't be eating, right?
yeah.
Well, that's another, I'm seeing these threads on these pages on Facebook where the moms are all asking about this, about the diet. They're like, my son only eats 3 things or 2 things. And I said, but Robbie only ate pretzels and apple juice for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's typical of what they do.
I remember Robbie eating the smiley fries.
Yes.
We had them in the toaster oven whenever we come over.
Yeah. And he didn't like mushy textures. So he never ate fruits, vegetables, pasta. He never ate any of that stuff. He just wanted like meat and potatoes, like a lot of French fries, salty. He loves salty stuff. And he loves salty meats and sweet stuff and, you know.
Yeah.
And bread, you know, and I don't even want to talk about this stuff on the video because other parents are going to jump on, you know, and they always want to lecture you, you know, about how they shouldn't be eating gluten or dairy and and their gut and all that stuff. It's like, we're not going there. If I never gave him carbs, you know, he wouldn't eat. There's no other options.
And I mean, I'm not against trying, like, say, a gluten-free diet. I know they make gluten-free bread and stuff like that, but at this moment in time, it's not my number one concern, you know.
Right. I know in one place where Robbie was in, I had to have a prescription for that from a doctor to put him on the gluten-free diet, and nobody would do it because they didn't believe in it. They didn't think it was necessary. You know, like if you were to tell your school, does he eat school lunches or do you pack a lunch?
No, I usually pack. I send him.
But I'm just saying for instance, like if you were going to tell them he can only eat gluten-free, blah, 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 they'll make you write a prescription for that.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know.
No,
anyway.
Actually, currently his teacher, they don't eat lunch in school now because of COVID.
Right.
But like last year, I was sending him in with whatever lunch. It was either a bagel or a yogurt, or even just toast. Like I'd send him like 3 slices of toast. And I would also send her money for whatever the school lunch is that day, and she would buy it and she would just try, like cut up a little piece of chicken nugget, and she was like, yeah, I have no problem trying to see if he'll eat any of it. And
Right.
like, then he started eating pizza, and pizza's hit or miss. He has to be in the mood for it.
Yeah.
But and it became like the ongoing joke, like, oh, every Friday is pizza, so he's gonna have pizza today. And some days he would eat the whole thing in one shot. Other days he's only eating the cheese. Other days he's only eating the crust.
Wow.
So it was kind of whatever he does, he does. Here's
Okay.
yogurt as a backup if he's
Yeah.
starving.
That was another thing the teachers used to do in Robbie's school, is they used to try to get the kids to eat new foods, because
Yeah.
it's typical that they don't like the textures and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, and we thought about looking into feeding. There's like feeding therapy and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's very expensive, and I'm not fully committed to that yet. So
Mhm.
I have to be in the right mindset in order to then carry it over.
Mhm.
So it would be a waste of my time and money at this current moment
Right.
to kind of go down that road. And I mean, it's fine. He's eating stuff. He's gaining weight. He's at a healthy weight. It's
Mhm.
it's not like it's a life or death situation at the moment.
Right.
So I'm
So
just
I know that he says words now. So when did he start? Didn't he start to sing first?
he kind of like humming and imitation of like different videos he was watching on YouTube, stuff like that. And it was kind of like a jumbled up mess, but you would get like one or two words out of it that were clear, and then you could make the connection, like, oh, are you singing head, shoulders, knees, and toes?
Yeah.
And
How old was he when he started that?
I want to say probably 5-ish, like between 4.5 and 5.
Mhm.
And he would go in waves of that as well. Like he would kind of be doing really, really well, and we would keep kind of feeding off of that and encouraging him to say, just single words alone, like go or me, or and he then it would kind of plateau, and then he would stop and go silent, and that's kind of always how he's been. He always has like these highs, and then it plateaus, and then another high, and then it plateaus.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, I'm sure that's probably typical for people to see.
Mhm.
We never really saw any of like the regression that other people experience. Um, it's been very, very slow moving, and
Mhm.
even his doctor, we see her once a year for the neurodevelopmental pediatrician, and she's always like, okay, we're good, we're in the right direction, we haven't regressed at all. It's just very slow, and it's his own pace, so
Right.
you have to go with it because he's in charge. So
Okay, Mace, let's read.
And a boy, I see a fish and a yellow boy, boy,
Yellow
ball.
ball. Beautiful, Mace. Good reading, buddy.
Do you think he understands everything that you say?
now I definitely do.
But
For the
before you
most-
weren't sure?
Before I wasn't sure. No. And I think I definitely underestimated him a lot as well. And then I quickly kind of learned like simple things, like I would just blurt out like, put that in the garbage. And then I'm like, why am I even wasting my breath? And then he would turn around and put it in the garbage, and I'm like, oh.
Oh, you got that? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what would confuse me
and
with
it's-
Robbie,
yeah.
because sometimes it seemed like he understood what I was saying, and other times it was like, no,
Yeah.
not at
Yeah.
all. And if I would say, put that in the garbage, once in a while he might do it, and other times it was completely ignored me, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because he didn't understand or he just didn't want to do it.
Didn't want to do it. Yeah.
That could be it too, you know, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, now at 7, I feel like, he's obviously still delayed, but we kind of look at it through the lens of, all right, well, he's kind of at like, say, a 3-year-old's level, and he is doing things appropriately. He is having tantrums like a 3-year-old would.
Right.
So
Right.
in that sense, he is kind of on point,
Right.
with where he lines up,
Right.
meeting all those markers when we go to the checkups. And
Yeah.
what she says, is it at a 7-year-old's level? Absolutely not. But we're like, okay, well, this is age appropriate for him,
Right.
to
Right.
have tantrums and talking back to you, like telling you no, which you laugh at. You have to
Yeah.
laugh at, like, because
Yeah.
you don't expect when he turns around and tells you no, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You have to keep a sense of humor for sure. So now I know that he is now reading, correct? So how did that come about?
His teacher, he has the same teacher from kindergarten, and she will be his teacher next year as well. She is fantastic. I absolutely love her. I love the aides that she has in the classroom.
Did she use a certain method or anything, or?
Started with just, flashcards, writing a word on it, and he had about 10 of them. And I guess they're like sight words, like she had his name on there, Mason. I don't know, I don't know what other words there were. And I know like mom and dad were on there. And the one day I had to pick him up from school, and she met me in the office, and she handed me this little stack on a ring of these 10 flashcards. And she was like, he can read these. I just want you to take this home and just hold it up and tell him to read. And flip them. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, yep. And then I started
You're talking about my son?
I start crying in the office, and she's like, then she starts crying, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't mean to get you all emotional. And I was like, no, I didn't even think that's where we were at in school. Because, she fills us in, she sends an email every day on how the day went and things that he did or whatever. But she doesn't give you every detail on what they're doing. So
Right.
I had no idea that's where he was at, and then from there, I think he's at like 56 words now, or on his flashcard ring.
Wow.
And then so he started on a program. It's the Edmark program, I think it's called. And it's a whole reading program where they start with, like, if it's the letter, say it's the word the, they start with identifying the letter T, and then TH, and then THE, and then, picking the word out in a sentence, and, putting it with like another word, so the dog or the cat, and he has to constantly identify the word the in all of that.
So when did this start? Was that this past?
This was last school year.
So he was 6. So he was already he was already kind of talking for at least a year before she started that.
Yeah.
And because I'm just curious how she figured out that he could do that, and when were we making the connection here? So does he get speech at school?
He does get speech. He gets speech 4 times a week at school.
Okay. Did they ever use picture exchange or sign language or anything like that with him?
They, back in preschool, he did the picture exchange thing, and we had like our own little board at home with his snacks and a cup for him to try to tell us what he wants.
Right. Yeah, because I think the progression with that is if they're really good with the pictures, then they try to do actual words.
Yes.
With the
And
stuff
then
where
he
like,
moved to they gave him an iPad, which is the augmentative communication device.
Yes.
And there's a whole program on there that the speech therapist sets up. And
Okay.
Again, with like words and
That's right. I have to. Oh, Patty has that program. Patty's my daughter, and she's a special ed teacher. She had a program on the iPad, and she gave it to her son. It was like the, and they put it in the.
oh yes, it's the most annoying thing, but it works.
What's it called? What is it called?
That's an app, Endless Words or something, I think it's called. And
Yeah, and she used it with her students, and her sons are, typical, but it still was great with them. It taught them how to spell and read and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
she
program.
told me, one of the first things that she had told me to download back when he was like 2 or 3, and she was like, just put this on his iPad and like, encourage him to play with it, because it's just matching letters to the word, and then it says the word. It was good, but it's very annoying.
Very annoying.
U P.
What'd you spell? Up. Say up. Beckett. Up.
U P. U.
Does he have any repetitive behaviors? Like, does he repeat stuff over and over again, or
his is
besides
with
videos?
Yeah, his is with videos.
But
Not-
but like when because I asked, because some autistic kids, they're very repetitive. Like they'll keep asking you the same thing over and over and over and over again. Like if you say we're gonna go to McDonald's or something, right? But they don't understand wait. So you'll say no, we're gonna go later, and then 2 minutes later they'll come back again and say, when are we going to McDonald's? 2 minutes later, when are we going to McDonald's? Like he doesn't do anything like that.
Doesn't really do anything too much like that.
Okay.
nothing
Or
that-
echolalia is when they repeat what you said all
Yes.
the time. Does he repeat you?
He does do that actually, especially if we're trying to get him. Before we were content with him just saying one word, and now we're trying to expand on that. So
Right.
he'll say Cheez-Its, and we're like, no, say I want Cheez-Its, and then
Right.
and he'll
Say a whole sentence.
yeah. So he constantly kind of repeats everything that you say. Like he'll say I want Cheez-Its. and
Right.
I want Cheez-Its.
Right. Right.
So I don't know if that still counts as the echolalia.
It is. It is.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Every now and again, you see like an OCD come out where, like his grilled cheese, I have to cut it in triangles, and he does little things. He'll match them all up perfectly, and then
Yeah.
take them apart, and then he'll go to move them around, but then he moves it back to the way it's supposed to be, and then
Yeah.
he'll start eating it.
So he doesn't do it with toys or anything. He doesn't line
Not
stuff up.
really with toys. He doesn't really play with any toys.
Mhm.
He's got like a handful that he likes, but it's more it's like a dinosaur that roars and makes a sound. It's all, like a fake tablet that has letters, and it's all anything that has like sounds or lights and stuff with it.
Right. Is he like obsessed with water? Because a lot of them are.
I wouldn't say he's obsessed. We do have a pool, and he loves going in the pool as well.
Does he know how to swim?
We're getting there. He's been doing lessons the last couple of years. Now, fortunately, he can stand in the shallow end, and his head
Oh, yeah,
will be out of
that's good.
that
Yeah.
gives me a little bit of peace of mind if he jumps
Right.
in the water before I get to. He has no fear, certainly of the water. Like he has no problem jumping in from the deep end.
Does he understand danger? Like, does he have a fear of, like, would he understand if he goes in the street, he could get hit by a car?
No, I don't think so.
Mm.
I don't think he's aware of that. Like one of the things I had to recently talk to his teacher about was he kind of started wandering, which I know you know very well.
He's never tried to run away out of your house?
No, so he's run out of our house, but he stays like on our property, but we have 3 acres of land. So if you're not seeing him in your initial sight, you go into panic mode. But
yeah,
it's like, oh, he went around to the back of the house and he's jumping on the trampoline. But you know, for those few minutes, you're freaking out and you're, where is he? What is he doing? You know, is he okay?
Yes, yes. Pretty much every chapter of my children's book involves him running away again.
Yeah. Again.
So tell me about this past year with COVID. How has that worked? Has he been? Do they try to do school from home on Zoom? Like, does that work?
Yeah, they use Google Classroom, which is kind of the same thing as Zoom. His teacher, who is very organized on all of it, and I do feel for these teachers because they obviously were all thrown a whole new thing at them, you know, out of left field.
So wait, back up to like March, April, May, when everybody was just like on lockdown, right? You probably didn't even do Zoom calls yet. Everybody just stayed home for like whatever, or you did.
She set it up from the very beginning, which I was
good for her.
Because, you know, my other son with Callum, he was in 2nd grade at the time, and it was like his teacher was just emailing every day, like, this is the work we're doing, take a picture of everything that you're doing and send it back to me so I have proof that he did work. And,
okay, but not a Zoom.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a free-for-all, like, good luck, figure it out. And like math is taught very different, so like, you know, it was definitely a struggle. And then I look at Mason's teacher and she's like, okay, this is our schedule where everyone's logging in at 8:30.
But that's special ed teachers. Everything is.
Yes. And I mean, not to knock, you know, the general ed teachers, but.
No, but it's a different teaching method. They have to be like, because in a school for autistic kids, they are literally charting every single thing they do, you know, I mean, like, you know, everything is charted and it's very structured. It's just a very different teaching method. So that's why for her, it probably didn't freak her out because she's used to.
Yeah. So we had like 3 different times throughout the day where it was a group setting. So everyone logged in, and then she you know, had specific times that she emailed you where it was individual time with her. So I think they got like 25 minutes of one-on-one, you know, time with her. And of course I had to sit in with it and help him. And you know, we had good days and bad days. Some days he would zip right through his work. Other days we probably spent 20 minutes of me defending myself, you know, from him trying to attack me. And you could see her on the other end. She's felt so helpless, like, you know, Mason, she's yelling at him, Mason, put your hands down, quiet hands, you know. But
David works at Robbie's old school now, and he logs on to do these Zoom calls because somebody in the school got COVID, so they were, you know, shut down for 2 weeks, and he's doing these Zoom calls, and this one boy is just really big boy, and he literally was beating his mother up on camera, and there was nothing they could do. They were like, they were mortified because they want to help and they can't because you're watching like this.
Yep, absolutely.
So what about the summer? Does he go to school in the summer?
He does go to school in the summer. Some districts, they did do in person. Our district did not, so it just continued as, you know,
as Zoom.
Kept it as Zoom, as the same schedule.
But before 2020, though, he would go into school, though.
He would normally go in, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For summer
Yeah,
school.
because Robbie was always off the last 3 weeks of August.
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
go all the way up to like around August 8th or whatever.
Yeah, I think we get a week off in June, and then they would start
Yes.
back.
And then
right
they start
after
up again.
4th of
Yes.
July, and then
Yeah.
it would be, I think it was like 8 weeks of
Yeah.
summer school.
Yeah. Those that August was brutal trying to find stuff for him to do and keep him busy. But
Yeah.
it's not so bad in the summer because at least you can go swimming, you can go to the beach, you can do
Yeah.
stuff outside. Winter I think is worse.
Thankfully he doesn't having time off from school. I know we've talked about Robbie it being a real big struggle for him. Mason's okay with it, not having to log in and go to school. But
Yeah.
I noticed this past winter break, there were 2 times where we were leaving the house and I think we were just going to like run an errand and he's going to grab his backpack because it was in the morning and
Yeah.
he's go to school. And I was like, no, we're not going to school today. And then he
Yeah.
would kind of like whine and cry. And I'm like,
Yeah.
get in the car. You'll be fine. And once he was in the car, it was fine. But
Yeah.
I never heard him kind of react that way. And I was like, oh, I guess we do like school though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bonus.
Yeah, that's a good thing, except when he can't go. But I remember when Robbie was, this age, probably at like 7, they would tell me, oh, you have to register him with DDD. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, because someday, when you're older and, you're not going to be there anymore for him, he'll need to go into group home. I'm like, that's 60 years from now. Like, I don't have to worry. Why am I have to worry about this now? And then they would say, oh, well, just the earlier, the better. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, which I do have to do that. And I know we've had that conversation before and you're like,
well, I'm going to tell you why, because when they hit puberty, everything changes.
yeah,
Their behaviors change. They can get violent, like you don't know. And then you're going to be looking for help. You're going to be looking maybe for some respite, someplace for him to go on the weekend, something to do, somebody to help you with babysitting or whatever. And they can't help you until they're registered with DDD.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal to register him. And then his name is he's just in the system. It's really, that's all you need.
Yeah.
So that's my only advice to you is to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And then wait and see what happens.
And then just wait. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets along okay with his brother then.
Yeah, he does for the most part. His brother is very good, very understanding. That's been a challenge trying to explain, why, like recently the fight is always how come Mason always gets to have the phone or gets to have this, have that, like.
Yeah.
And I don't getting it to him, but he does kind of understand. He's met other kids that are autistic, and he will then ask like, well, how come that kid's talking if he's autistic? I thought autistic kids don't talk like Mason.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, but everyone's kind of different. Some people talk, some people don't. So it's hard trying to navigate, to explain stuff on an 8-year-old's level.
Yeah.
When we're still figuring it out,
Yeah.
It's not like I know anything, like everything about autism.
Right. And some of the other parents and the other kids in his class?
I do, yeah. We've become friends.
How do you know if he gets bussed? How have you met the other parents?
Just like birthday parties, really is, and like different, I've volunteered to be class mom for Mason's class the last couple of years. So I've gotten to meet a few of them that way as well. And it's nice to have, like obviously our kids are going to more or less stay with each other till they're 21. So it's nice building a relationship with people that understand and that you can vent to. And I have a few friends that I've become pretty close with through this process.
Yeah. Which is nice because I'm seeing that as talking to these other moms, because at Robbie's school, they were bused from all over the state of New Jersey, and I never met any of the other parents, and nobody had birthday parties.
Okay.
Like there was no opportunity to get to meet other parents. So I felt very isolated, So I'm happy to see that you have other parents to talk to, because talking to some of the other moms, their kids all went to school in Basking Ridge school system, and it was the same kind of thing. It was a contained classroom of like 6 kids, and they all knew each other, all those moms. And they did the birthday parties and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I see the difference.
Yeah.
That I, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll continue to, get close, and, I've had some of them over the summer to swim. And obviously it's like kind of do your own thing with your own child, but and I do cut some of their hair, like, because that's been a struggle, obviously, doing haircuts for some of the kids. So they've asked me, like, would you ever do that? And I'm like, absolutely. And I come to their house, so it's in their environment, so that too has also kind of helped to build that relationship.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good. Yeah, you can. Oh, I might start you a little business doing that after people watch this video.
I might have to bring my kids along, but
yeah, right. That's the thing. Yeah. And you get. I have video of you cutting Robbie's hair too.
Yes.
I think it was before he was getting his award for Resident of the Year, and he needed a haircut ahead of time. So yeah. When Robbie was little, when he was like 2 or 3, he would scream bloody murder when he was getting his haircut. He was terrified. Terrified of that. But then over the years, he got used to it. So.
Mason, we have like some days it's fine when I cut his hair, and he will sit and be good, and all I have to do is kind of toss him an M&M every now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
To keep him motivated. But then other days he's sitting there and he's swatting at me like to get away. And I've learned to be kind of quick, and like the little in me, I'm like, oh, but that hair's, it's like out of place. Let me just get that one. And I'm like, it's fine. Let it be.
yeah. Just let it go. Let it go.
But yeah, we've had our ups and downs with the haircuts as well. It's, and that's why it doesn't bother me to cut other autistic kids' hair, because I'm like, I know, I'm patient. It's fine. And do my best.
Yeah. It's good. So, all right, Jen, thanks so much for talking. I've kept you for like overtime here, but
I'm surprised they're laughing.
Every mom thinks they're going to have nothing to talk about. I'm like, you'll see. We'll be fine. Once you start talking about your kids, you can talk all day.
Yeah. So. You want to say goodbye?
Yeah.
Okay, come say goodbye.
Come say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Cal.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. If you're interested in buying our book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, the link will be in our episode description, as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like more content, please be sure to hit that like button, follow us, and don't forget to leave us a great review. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.